So that's the worst thing about it. Now let's talk about the rest of it. But that's not the only thing you need to know about LASIK, so I'm going to share with you my journey through LASIK and everything that I learned about what you should know before you get it. What's happening, everyone? I'm Peter, founder of Expedition Money. Hope you're doing well. I had LASIK about 6 years ago now, which is interesting. Time does fly. And I've always meant to do a video following up on it and sharing my experiences, telling you the pros and the cons, what to expect, and how you should buy it or how you get a good deal on LASIK. I think a lot of people are thinking about that. And now it's not necessarily a new procedure. I actually remember, I think 20 years ago, I was talking to my cousin who's a nurse, and I was talking to her about getting LASIK. We were both nearsighted, and she said, oh, it's just such a new procedure. I want to really see a few more years of people getting it and seeing what the drawbacks are to it. And so, gosh, it's been around so long now that I think if you want to know what the data says on it, it is probably pretty available. But because it's so institutionalized, I actually decided to get it. I actually got it from my wife first as a Christmas present because her vision is worse than mine. And she liked it so much that I immediately signed up myself. So I'm going to cover a few things today. I want to talk to you about how to buy LASIK and how to get a good deal on it and how to fund it and how to pay for it. 2, I want to talk to you about my experiences, what to expect through the process of getting the surgery and then afterwards and the experience of recovering. And then I want to talk to you about the pros and cons. There are numerous pros and cons that you should be aware of before you sign up for something like this. Now, the other thing I want to say here is I'm not a doctor. I'm not affiliated with any LASIK providers, so I'm going to steer away from sharing any specific names, but the prices I'm giving you are real. And you have to decide if this is right for yourself. So consult your medical professional. I don't know how old you are, if you have other issues, or what your vision is, or the status of your eyes, or if you have astigmatisms, or whatever the things are that go into making a good, informed decision about LASIK or some of the alternatives, PRK, that you need to consider. I'm just telling you my experience here and my thoughts after 6 years of having it done. So the first thing I want to talk about is how do you buy LASIK? Because here in the Chicago area, the reason I was even thinking of it is that there is a commercial on the radio and ads online and YouTube, and you probably see them. If you've Googled any of this, you're probably getting targeted with some of these. And there are ads from a specific company that advertises LASIK services. And because they were advertising so many and so often, I thought, man, they must be the premier place for getting the LASIK procedure done. And I checked in on it, and it was about $4,200 to get 2 eyes done with LASIK. And I thought, okay, that's not too bad. It's pretty expensive. Couple $1,000s an eye. And then I started doing some research online, Googling and reading stuff. And basically what I found is that in terms of recommendations and in terms of getting a good price, you want to shop this around because usually there are 2 types of places that do LASIK. The places that do them in volume and don't particularly advertise heavily, but use basically a referral partner network to send LASIK business to them. And then the places that do LASIK, which are franchises or national organizations, do a lot of advertising, do that LASIK on site, have a lot of facilities that will do the LASIK, end up resulting in 2 very different pricing points, right? So the places that put LASIK machines and people and staff in their places and advertise heavily, that's the $4,200 one. That was the one that I was hearing on the radio, online a lot. But there was another place that has a single place where they do all of the surgeries, and then they work basically with opticians and ophthalmologists and people around this area that refer to them. And I think that they get a referral cut, but then they do some of the related work before and after the surgery. But the advantage of going to places like this is 1, just the sheer volume that they do, and 2, the price point ends up being about half. That's what it was told to me online. And what I did is I found a place here in Chicago that does that works through these providers, and they are $2,000 for 2 eyes. And that price was for LASIK or PRK, which is something with keratotomy. And it's actually for eyes that are even more severe, that have worse vision. But there are actually some benefits to it that I think the eye is a little stronger afterwards. You can take on more extreme activities. So if you're a high adventure person or a pilot or something like that, you may want PRK. And I think PRK allows you to actually get LASIK done later if you want to fine tune your vision again at some point in the future. So in some ways, PRK is maybe superior to LASIK. I don't know that for sure, but LASIK is ubiquitous. It's quick, it's fast, it's cheap, it's very institutionalized. It's very common, and it's considered pretty routine. The other thing you want to do is check reviews of any of the places that you're going to go to, whether it is both the ophthalmologist or optician that is diagnosing you and referring you to the place that is going to do that work. So I'm cutting out the places, the big name places, because I didn't go that route. So I went to the factory of it. The other thing, and just like I mentioned with PRK, is this really depends on your vision. So I was -5 and -5.5 in my other eye. And I was, like I said, borderline for PRK or LASIKs. Although once I got there, the doctor was clearly like, no, we can do LASIKs in both eyes. No issue at all. However, my wife was closer to a -9, I think, a -8 or something like that. And so they did PRK. Now, they actually said that in one of her eyes, because it was a little better, they could potentially do LASIK in one and PRK in the other, but it just seemed better to do the PRK, just do the same procedure in both eyes at the same time and just be done with that. So she did PRK. Her experience on healing is a little bit different. It's pretty similar, but I will say this. PRK's results don't come until you start healing. And so for a few days, she had terrible vision, basically no vision, such blurry vision. I think it was maybe like you've got Vaseline over your eyes, you can't see anything, everything's blurry, you can't really get around without help. So if you don't have someone who lives with you who's going to be able to take care of you for a few days while you're healing up, I don't know that you're going to want to do PRK until you can get that person with you. But again, I want to stick to the LASIKs because that's where I have the experience. So that's how you really want to buy. That's how you want to get that good value so that you're not overpaying. Now, I will say this, because I didn't go to the highfalutin places that were advertising, I don't know what their experience was like. I don't know what their facilities were like. Going this route meant that you're going to have a little bit of a disjointed experience because you've got a couple of different providers at each stage of the process. So let's get into the experience of getting LASIK. So the first thing I did was I went to this website. I found a provider near me. They've got a lot of locations where you can have your initial consultation. You got to meet with an optometrist to even decide if this is right for you. And so I found one and it was pretty close, only 20 minutes away from my house. So just straight down the street. So I went, met with this optometrist. He does some tests. I'm not even sure what they do. They look at your eyes. He said, yes, you're absolutely a candidate for LASIK. He explains what you're going to do, how it works, and basically says to me that once you're ready, you're going to go and get scheduled at the production facility, which was actually down in Downers Grove, I think. So that's actually pretty far from me. That's 35 miles, probably 45-minute drive from where I'm at. And I thought, oh, maybe you're going to do it here, but that's not how it works. So they do the pre-inspection, the pre-consultation, make sure you're ready for it. I think maybe they do a little prep. I don't even remember them doing any prep or eye drops or anything like that. But you go to that consultation. And what I think happens is that optometrist gets a referral fee for sending them or using this particular provider for LASIKs, because they're going to do the pre-consultation, but also on the back end, you're going to have a few post consultations with that same person. So it's going to be local to you. I want to say there were two. There was one maybe a few days after the procedure, then one maybe a couple weeks after the procedure, and then another one a year after the procedure. So there's at least 3 consultations. I don't know how much they get paid for that. I don't know, probably a few $100, but it's easy business for them. They're actually not doing much, and they're just making sure that things are working and making sure that you've got 20/20 vision. I actually had better vision than I expected coming out of LASIK. So that was the good thing. And the spoiler alert, if you didn't want to know that. So you go for this consultation, and this is really a feeder to the production facility, which is usually run by another doctor at another facility. Now, this is why I said the experience is a little disjointed, because the optometrists can have their own office. It can be branded a certain brand. It can be ABC Optometry. They might have a really nice office. It could be really beautiful or whatever. And then you go to this production facility, and it's not actually even that well marked because you can't walk in there. They don't necessarily do the consultations there. It's just for having that surgery. And so it's really just a big waiting room and then the operating room. And it's bland. It's just your standard hospital quality waiting room and hospital type of environment, but it's not like super luxurious. And I think if you were going to pay the $4,200, maybe you would expect, oh, I don't know, free coffee and donuts or something like that. But basically what I liked is that the money is in the procedure and in the service, not in fancy trappings on the wall and artwork and stuff like that. So when you go, you usually get a date. Mine was during the week. So I think the doctor, because he's been doing this for so long, and I will say that they have some stats and reviews on their websites about how long he's been doing this, 25 years, 150,000 of these surgeries or whatever, like some crazy numbers, which is not maybe surprising in a big city like Chicago, how many people get LASIKs and how many other providers there are. But the one funny thing that I do remember is when you get there, you're watching this video. It's like a looped DVD of the doctor explaining the LASIK procedure and what to expect and how it goes and your post-operation treatment. And it's this young, good-looking doctor. And then when I got into the surgery, he was much older because it's 25 years old. He's an older doctor, which actually gives me a little confidence because he's the same charismatic guy, but he is much more experienced at that point. So it was a little jarring. You don't realize how old that video is, that kitschy 80s type of video. But you get there, and what I realized is that the doctor works usually during the weekdays. I guess a doctor that has done this for 20 years has established his practice how he likes to do it. So it's usually Monday through Friday, and they had a couple of times. There was a midday and then an evening appointment time. So if you're working, it's probably easier to take the evening appointment, which I think started at 4 o'clock. Now, what they say is that it's 4 to 6 o'clock, but your procedure will not take that long. You have to be there a little early to watch the video. So you get there at 3:30, you're watching the video. There are people there getting LASIK or PRK. And I'm not sure if it's based on when you arrive. I think it's a little first come, first serve, but I also think that they may do all the LASIK first and then all the PRK second or vice versa. Because I got there pretty early, but I was not the first one, but I was the first one to go in. So what I think, my theory was that the people that were ahead of me were PRK patients, and then I was the first LASIK patients to get there. So you watch this video and then they're ready to start at 4 o'clock and they call your name and you go in, and I was happy that I was the first because you start to get a little nervous after watching the video. You're like, oh, should I even do this? And it's gross. And they're showing you how they do it and they raise the eye flap. I almost don't want to know any of that, to be really honest. Okay. So I was first, which is great. So I go in, they lay you down. You don't feel anything, but obviously they're bracing your eye and they do lift up the flap, and that's a pretty impressive moment. Everything goes fuzzy at that point and you're focusing on a light and they're zapping you with a laser. You can hear it, you can't really feel it, but you can smell it. And then they get you all focused and they put your flaps back down and take care of you. And I would say that probably within 10 or 15 minutes, the whole procedure was done. They don't waste any time. They get through it. You're out of there. The next person goes in, and then you're getting a little bit of post-treatment. Now, all I can remember is in the post-treatment, they're putting some goggles on you, which kind of look like cheap ski goggles. They were just like plastic with foam around the outsides here, so they butt up against your face. I think that's to keep stuff out because you're just going to blink, but you don't want to rub your eyes. You don't want to get anything in there. You don't want to inadvertently poke them and move that flap around because your eyes are going to be a little dry, a little itchy. And there are many times when I was reaching up and I was glad I had those goggles on because it just reminds you to not touch anything. It's basically the human cone for the neck, like you're a dog. So stay out of the eyes. Just keep those on. A good pair of goggles and ski goggles will probably do the same thing, but they're clear. Now, they always recommend you get driven home. And if you are having PRK, when my wife did, you absolutely had to do that. She was blind. I was helping her into the car. It wasn't that she couldn't see anything, but to the description, it sounded like you're just looking through muck. You really can't tell anything. Certainly wouldn't be able to drive. However, we were driving home and it was snowing and the snow was pretty bad. That was the worst part of it. My wife does not like to drive in the snow. And I almost switched seats with her to drive home because my vision was perfect. My vision was outstanding. I could not believe how well I could see leaving the building. I thought that it would take at least a few minutes, a few hours before things would start to come in focus. My vision was as good leaving the facility as it ever was with the glasses that I was wearing. So that was pretty impressive. Now, I'm not saying that you should drive yourself home. I would certainly encourage you to make sure you have a ride or Uber it or whatever you might want to do. But the results are instantaneous. It is crazy. It blows your mind a little bit. All right. So you get home, you're going to use these goggles, especially when you sleep, so that when you roll over in your face or something like this, you're not irritating your eye, you're not irritating that flap. One of the things that I noticed is that sometimes when you have it off and you're touching your eye or something like that, I think you actually can move that flap a little bit. I feel like I did. But, and I'm not telling you to do this, but when things went out of focus just a little bit, I just caressed very gently my eyes like this, just to make sure that you're folding that flap back out, like you're flattening out a t-shirt on a table or something like that. So I would just do that a little bit and it seemed like things went okay. And so far, 6 years later, things are just fine. So just keep that in mind. Don't touch your eye. And it's almost impossible not to unless you're wearing those things. The other thing you'll probably want to do is make sure you have a few days off of work. I don't know what kind of work you do, but if you're working from home, maybe not a big deal. But if you're going to a meeting, you probably don't need these goggles on, especially as your eyes tend to heal. You just don't want to risk it, I think, being around people or things floating in the air, whatever it might be. All right, the rest of the recovery. One of the things that they will give you is eye drops, and they have you get certain brands, and they actually ask you to get what are called preservative-free ones, and they have you do those eye drops a lot. The other thing they give you are some steroidal eye drops and some antibacterial eye drops. So you're doing a lot of eye drops at the time, and you just want to do the eye drops that they recommend. In fact, when I saw my optometrist, he was talking about there's some danger in taking some of the eye drops when you don't need to. And I can't remember which one those were, but there were some temptation, I thought, to keep taking some of these eye drops. And if you don't need them, you don't want to take them because it can cause some problems. So follow your prescriptions, do the routines that they're recommending, but don't do more than that, okay? In fact, my wife, I think, had to take some of the eye drops a little bit longer, and they only did that because of how she was healing, but they don't necessarily want to take some of those eye drops any longer than you need to. And obviously, don't rub. If you're feeling dry eyes, you can take the preservative eye drops. And then the experience afterwards was, again, a few days after the procedure, I think I went and met that optometrist, and he thought things were looking good. In fact, my eyesight was 20/20 at that time. You come back a little while longer. I want to say it was maybe a few months later. I think they're just making sure that things are healing right. And then again, a year afterwards, I met with him again. There were a lot of post-appointment checkups through that optometrist that I was surprised of. And you're not paying any more for that. That apparently is all in the price. So I never cut him a check specifically. Everything was paid to that one provider. So they must take care of the referrers or the referral partners on their own. So somehow they do that. All right, let's talk about pros and cons. There are many, and you probably are going to be aware of some of these, especially if you're wearing glasses now. But some of the pros here are the long-term money savings. To be honest, I got my LASIK done when I was 42. I'm 47 right now, so 5 years ago, and I wish I got it done earlier. In fact, at age 40, when I got my eyes checked with the optometrist, they were telling me that I already started to need reading glasses. The funny thing about it is I didn't get reading glasses at the time. I pushed through it a little bit. But when I got LASIK, I didn't need reading glasses right away. I actually didn't need reading glasses until probably 2 years later. I already knew that I was going to need them. I wasn't blaming LASIK for that. But whatever the LASIK did was gave me really good distance vision and nearsighted vision pretty quickly. And I didn't need the reading glasses. I actually felt like that actually helped me hold off on these just a little bit. But I do need them now. I tell you what, these are only 1X. So is that really reading glasses? I'm not even sure why they work, because 1X must not really be 1X. I can actually read stuff, especially in bright light like this. I've noticed that it's really hard in low light when you're trying to read like a menu in a restaurant and they have really low lights. It's really hard to see. That's when you need the reading glasses like this. So again, 1X, and now things are pretty crystal clear. I have also noticed that I can pull out reading glasses that are marked 1.25X, and those also are very clear. If I go to 1.5, that's maybe a little too strong. So I'm sure over time I'm going to need stronger reading glasses. Your eyes just become less elastic over time, more crunchy, more dried, and that's why people need to go to reading glasses. And I've heard that if you do eye exercises like this, 30-pound dumbbells or something, that kind of keeps them a little looser, juicier, elastic, and so you can head off the reading glasses. But eventually you're all going to need these, I think, for the most part. Most people will, at least. All right. The other pro is that the procedure is fast, the recovery is fast, and you get immediate results. So if you are trying to figure out how to get results so that you can play sports, so that you can drive semi-trucks or take flying lessons or go on vacation, it's pretty amazing. In fact, I got these right away because I knew I had a summer vacation coming up, and so I got them done, I think, in February, because I really wanted to go on summer vacation without having, I know this is going to sound stupid and kind of random, but I wanted to go snorkeling without having to figure out prescription snorkeling goggles. So if you are nearsighted, you know how tough it is to do things, whether it is skiing. I had to put on my glasses, and I had to find goggles that would go over prescription. They're called like OTG, over the glasses ski goggles. Or if you go snorkeling, you had to get those prescription snorkeling masks. It's just such a pain when you're going out and you're trying to do stuff and have a good time, and your eyes are keeping you from fully immersing yourself in this. The other thing that I would say is, I wish I had done it earlier, is I played sports growing up as a kid. Even in college, I played a little club soccer. And what I would do is I would wear contacts during those times. And that kind of gets rid of the fisheyeing a little bit. But also, if you take a hit to the head or you're really moving about, you can lose a contact. Obviously, you can move a little bit, and that's time that you have to reset. Man, I think if I had LASIK done earlier, I could have played more sports and I would have been better at them. I could have been able to do more things better earlier than I was able to do. And so if you have a kid that likes sports but can't seem to kick that kickball or make contact with the baseball every time, or even when I was playing golf, your head moves a little bit just like this and you're getting a little fisheye, it's a little hard to track that ball. I've noticed that my golf has gotten better since I've gotten LASIK. So if you are a golfer and you're looking to shave a few strokes, honestly, LASIKs might do that too. So immediate results, better than I thought. The other thing that it's done for me is I have no paranoia traveling. So one of the things when I wore regular glasses, because I was nearsighted, so I had to have glasses for farsighted things, I always worried about dropping the glasses or them falling off the nightstand and stepping on them, or them getting smashed, or them coming off while we're kayaking or rafting or hiking or something like that, and then being basically blind for the whole trip, or not being able to drive or whatever, because you can't necessarily get prescription glasses just like that anywhere, especially out in the middle of nowhere, or sometimes you need that prescription and they're going to take 7 days to get to you or whatever. So it's really nice to travel without paranoia. The other thing that I really love is being able to fall asleep without glasses on in my own bed, because normally if I had glasses and I was watching TV or something like that and you fall asleep and now they're like this and they're crunched and you bent the frame and you've got the indentation on the side of your face and all this other stuff. Now you can just go to sleep when you want, wake up, go to the bathroom, get up, start your day without glasses, without all that stuff, without the routine of, all right, let's put in some of the contacts now and get going. And you have this whole routine. And obviously the money savings in the long run, it depends when you get this, but between eye examinations, the different glasses. So I had prescription glasses. I had sport glasses, like these acrylic frames. I had prescription sunglasses. I even had contacts for some stuff. Man, you're just spending a ton of money on all sorts of stuff. And then every few years, you're having to get new stuff because the glasses don't last forever. The nose pads don't last forever. The metal starts to flake and the prescription changes. So you're changing those. You're saving old glasses in case you break a set. It just was so dumb how much wasted time and wasted stuff I had sitting around because of those glasses. So it's the money savings, the less clutter, all of that stuff. Oh, and the last thing I should say is that I was able to pay for my LASIKs out of my HSA, my health savings account, because it was a medical expense. So if you have that, you can get the tax advantage of being able to spend the money on that. So I was really happy that I had set up that HSA. Your insurance actually might cover it. My insurance did not cover it. It considered an elective procedure, but it's weird because I had vision insurance that would cover part of my optometry checkups and stuff like that, and some of the frames, the glasses and whatnot. So it's a little weird that insurance will cover some of the costs of bad vision, but not fixing it so that they never have any future costs of bad vision, but whatever. So you might be able to pay for it with HSA, but if not, the provider was certainly happy to take a credit card, check, or cash as well. And just being able to get up and do things when I want to do them, go swimming, go snorkeling, go golfing, play volleyball, do high adventure stuff, buy any pair of sunglasses that I want, because now you can just go into the drugstore and buy a nice pair of sunglasses or some pair of sunglasses that fit you perfectly. And you don't have to worry about prescriptions. You don't have to worry about any of that. So it's just so nice. Even the 3D movies that I would go to, you had to put these like paper glasses over your regular glasses. You don't have to do that stuff anymore. So many pros. To me, the pros outweighed the cons by a mile. But there are some cons, and you need to know about them because they are legit and they are real. Starbursting. What is starbursting? So I had heard about this and I actually suffered from this afterwards. Starbursting is when you see light in darkness. So the common one is, say you're driving down the road, it's dark, oncoming traffic has their headlights on, and those headlights have those really big starburst streaks. They go everywhere and they go to the edges of your vision. And that was a real thing. And I saw this and I was driving and I was like, oh man, this starbursting is legit and it's distracting and it's bright and it's hard to see stuff. And I was like, it's a little dangerous for me to drive at night. You've got to be really sharp about looking around or squinting or looking away from lights, because it was really dramatic. Now, I will say this, the starbursting for me went away. I don't remember exactly when. It didn't even dawn on me that it was going away. I think at first you're just adjusting and you're adjusting quickly enough. Your mind is adjusting quickly enough that you're compensating. And then as it's going away, I think it's slowly going away as your eyes are healing. I don't know that it ever goes away completely, and it's hard to know how much better it was or worse than before the LASIKs, but I don't notice any starbursting at all anymore, maybe just a faint amount of it. But I was actually driving at night thinking about what I was going to talk about in this LASIK video, and I realized, you know what? I'm looking at that other car and it looks just fine. I'm not getting the starbursting off those headlights like I used to. I don't know if that's permanent for everyone. I don't know if it's temporary for everyone like me, but either way, it was very bad at the beginning, and probably for months afterwards, it was probably pretty bad. But after that, I don't either realize it or it went away or both. So that's something I noticed right away, and it worried me a little bit because if it was going to persist as bad as it was at the beginning, it was really probably going to change maybe some of my night driving habits. Okay. The other thing is, as I mentioned at the very beginning, dry eyes. My eyes get pretty dry. My wife's eyes get pretty dry. She goes through eye drops pretty regularly. I want to say maybe uses drops almost every day or maybe every day. I don't use drops very often. In fact, I just put them in for this video because today was particularly rough. But I would say that at most I use drops 2-3 times a year. Now, I will tell you, it's winter here. It is very cold. It was -7 degrees outside. I think it's going down to -14. The humidifier is on in my room. I have a little kind of room humidifier last night, but this morning I woke up, my eyes were really dry. My mouth, my throat, everything was really dry. So it is really dry in here, and I probably could have gotten away. I didn't need to put in the eye drops, but I wanted to do something that demonstrated what you need to do sometimes with these. But if you have these like refresh eye drops, preservative free, I don't know, it makes me feel better that there are no preservatives in it. They are really easy to use. These single use ones are really nice, especially for someone who's not using them every day, but maybe a few months from now wants some. Drop them in there. The relief is pretty instant. And in fact, if you're having a little bit of trouble focusing because the eyes are so dry, putting these in, man, things change pretty quickly. So I really like that. I also mentioned the reading glasses. That is a drawback. As the optometrist said, you have tattooed long distance lenses onto your eyes now. And so things up close aren't going to be as clear. But to me, actually at the beginning, that wasn't even a problem. It's not now, so I'm starting to approach 50 here, that they are becoming more of a common thing for me. I will also say that when it gets late at night, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, you're starting to really feel tired. It can be harder and harder to focus the eyes. I've noticed that it's harder to read or harder to watch TV when I'm getting tired. In general, it's probably harder to focus when you're tired, but I think it's a combination of the LASIKs as well. And maybe the eyes getting dried out from all day use and all those things. But I just noticed that sometimes it's just not worth trying anymore and call it a day, go to bed. All right. The other thing, this is a weird con, but the other thing is when your vision is really bad, when you are super nearsighted like I was, you can have superhero macro vision. When my friends would get splinters, I remember one day my father got a little fiberglass splinter in his finger and he's like, "Can you get that out?" And all I had to do is put it up to my eyes like this. The closer it was, the better I could see it. It's almost like those big magnifying glasses that people have when they paint tiny toy figurines or they're looking at a culture in a laboratory or something like that. That was the superhero trait that I had. I could see anything up close, and the closer I got, the better I could see it. That's not the case anymore. If I put my hands up to here, I can't really see it. This is where I'm going to need the glasses, so I put those on, and now I can see it. You're just so used to being programmed that the closer it is to you, the better off you can see it. No more. Not the case for those nearsighted people, the ones that can see all the details up close. All right. The last thing that I want to mention here is I've talked about how to buy it, how to find a provider for this, the experience of going through it, some of the pros and cons. The last thing I want to mention here is something that I think is a little bit strange as a byproduct of this, and I've only been able to see it over the last few years, is that I think because my vision was so bad, I had a tendency to continue to slunch over to get closer and closer to things, even when I was wearing glasses, whether it was reading things or looking at screens or TVs, and I kind of noticed my posture was getting bad. Ironically, when you are farsighted, it's easier to start moving back. So if I'm holding up a paper like this and I can't see it, I can move the paper away. Some people, you'll see people doing that, but it's also easier to move yourself away. I actually think that there might be a correlation between people with better posture and how farsighted they are, because they're incented to make as much distance artificially as possible. If you are nearsighted and finding yourself with bad posture, this might actually get you better, because now even when I'm with my computer, there's no advantage for me to lean into it. It gets worse. So the farther back I am, and I feel like that's just helping me a little bit with my posture, my shoulder, and kind of the pains in my neck and stuff like that. So it's one of these things that's a small change. It's late in life. It's probably not going to materially change me. But if I had done this 15, 20, 25 years earlier, gosh, maybe my posture would just be better in general. So anyway, that's just a weird random one. I can't actually tell you for sure that's what's going on, but I think that's something that I've noticed here over the last couple of years out of the 6 years now that I've had LASIK. So hopefully, if you are thinking about that, if you're thinking about getting a LASIK, that is my experience with LASIK. I am super happy I got it. I got it after my wife got PRK, and she was super happy about getting it. We both sing the praises of those procedures as freeing you. mentally, obviously physically from glasses, but the amount of fun that you can have on trips, on vacations, on sports, on just doing stuff without having to worry about breaking or losing glasses, without having to worry about getting specialized equipment, man, it is so freeing, and it has freed us up from bills that we're paying for daily contacts, disposable contacts, and glasses, and all that other stuff. So yes, I would recommend it, but obviously it's a personal choice. You've got to make a decision whether that's going to be the right thing for you. Obviously do your own research and consult with someone who knows what they're talking about, but hopefully that will help you on your journey and on your expedition to get the procedures that might change your life and save you money. So hopefully that helps. I'll see you later.